perception. I'm like, what I usually try to do now is like, anytime I'm feeling bad at a club, I try to zoom out and not have that like beat yourself down of like, well, it's easy, but just have a real good perspective check and go, dude, you're in a fucking amazing country. You have the disposable income to be standing in a club chasing pussy. Like, I mean, life's pretty cool. This is pretty cool life out here. This is my biggest worry right now is getting one of these drunk 22-year-olds to laugh. I mean, it's pretty awesome problem to have, you know? So, and like I said, like just, there's another side of this is just the human side of being like, well, I hate 22-year-old girls that are like this and like this and like this. Well, fuck, dude, she's just a girl. I mean, like, I always think, like, one of my other things is, like, I want to make everybody else I contact with have a better, like either have a better night or, like, have some kind of a small little impact on them. So I think one of the reasons I like to get into qualification and comfort is, besides the game side of it, is because I think it's kind of cool to see somebody's eyes light up and go, whoa, yeah, I never thought about that. And you give them a little trick, and they're like, you kind of push them a little bit. So you smart guys that think you're so deep, I mean, fuck, like, you pass some of that knowledge on, but do it in a way that's fun and learn how to connect. One thing I think Thompson and I are both good at is connecting on intellectual stuff with girls that aren't necessarily as intellectual as us, but doing it in a way where you don't leave them in the dust, but they feel good and they feel like they're glad they met you because you're cool and kind of inspiring.
You know? Yeah, I mean, which again, yeah, and it's also, it's one of those things where it's like that could be an hour interview in itself. I mean, the right. How to do that is, you know, because I bet there's some guy out there who's like, talk about that, and it's like, yeah, you know, that's why Braddock and I are doing this, is because we have a lot to say to each other, and it's like, you know, there's a lot there. We can talk about having fun and its role really heavily, but the other thing I would say to the new guy, just going back to your original question, what would I say to that guy? I would say, you are going to get rejected. That's full stop. Is if you cannot accept the reality that, and look, that's the truth behind every, like, we have seen guys of every level. We have seen, you know, every guy whose marketing isn't good enough, but he's a stone cold badass, or somebody whose marketing is amazing and he turns out to be a charlatan, and everything in between. Yeah. We have seen and more to the point, guys who are just bad motherfuckers with women. Like you know, right now, one of my natural friends, this guy that I've learned a lot from, just like I go, God, man, he's just, you know, everything we teach, he does automatically. And I'm watching, you know, and he's turning to me for advice for the first time, like, ever, because he's in love and he doesn't really know what to do, right? And but watching this guy, like, I went around with him at a party, and like, yeah, that motherfucker got rejected too. He's great, fantastic. You know, we ended up walking out of there with 3 super hot girls, but like, there was another aspect to the story, and that was the girls we did not walk out with, and that's just how it is. And just I would say keep that in mind. Is like, there is no realer perspective than that. And anybody who tries to sell you, you know, we are in information marketing, so everything that we do, and no matter how earnest we are, there's at least some marketing component to it. I'm not trying to exonerate myself from that, but what I'm saying is they're selling you something with that's part of their angle. If they try to tell you that there's some way to do it where you can completely obviate rejection, they're just lying, and there just isn't any way around that. And I think the thing is, it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to make that as part of your process. Rejection is literally part of being good at game. If you're not getting rejected, you're not playing. If you're not failing, you're not trying. If you're not failing, you're playing it safe. You're having a bunch of boring 20-minute bullet trains to nowhere. And you've got, you know, if you're gonna find, life is your life is a response to fear. Everything we do is a response to fear. You either get to run screaming at it with a battle axe, or you kneel before it. And if you want to know what to do next, not in game, in life, if you want to know what to do next, you look your fear in the eye, and your fear will tell you what you are scared of, where you will get the most validation and challenge. That in the face of fear, that's what you should do. That is what your heart is telling you. That's what your life trajectory is aimed at. When it comes to girls, the fear of that girl not talking to you anymore, the fear of her thinking you're weird, all that kind of shit, That is what is standing in your way. And it's the idea that somehow you can play the game to not be rejected. What I find, Braddock, what I find is that with the guys who are listening to this, the ones who are most affected by this are the engineers. It's the left brain guys. It's the guys who have math backgrounds, who have science backgrounds, who are trying to make things that work. And they come to something that with a system, they come to something that has a, we make a promise about that where you can fulfill these anxieties through a methodology, and I think that they are they come at it with an expectation that they can somehow reduce any option for rejection, and that is the thing that I most want to kill. Is like embracing rejection. If I were talking to a total newbie, I'd say embrace rejection.
Yeah, and let me explain. I like what you said, Thompson. Something that, like, I know what you guys are feeling like. You think, okay, you know, especially you math engineer types. You're like, I learned that 2 + 2 is 4, and I like that because now every time I see 2 + 2, I have certainty that it's 4. And we're saying, yeah, okay, but when you play this game, 2 + 2 is sometimes 4. Yeah, sometimes. And sometimes it's not. Most of the times it's 4, and a lot of times, but sometimes it's not, and that makes your head go fucking nuts. And so I know what you guys are looking for. You're looking for a system where if you, no matter how hard the system is, if you type in the right numbers, you're going to get it consistent, and that's just not real, guys. This is why I say you do need to go to a club, and you do need to talk to ditzy 20-year-olds for a while, because they help you get in touch with the erratic, uncontrollable side of life that's like, wow, I don't know the unknown, getting comfortable with the unknown and getting comfortable with, I don't know what's coming next. Now, what you see as you get good with this, you math guys, is you get to a level where you're like, okay, I met this girl this weekend, or last weekend, and she came over yesterday, and she texted me, but I was like, hey, let's go, you want to come over and hang out and watch a movie? She's like, yeah. And she's like, no funny business. And I was like, okay. This is through text. I'm like, all right. But in my head, like, as soon as she said that, I was like, wow, this girl, she's worried about herself, like not being able to control her own sexuality more than she's worried that I'm going to try something bad. Which for you, in my mind, that's a 2 + 2 is 4. I'm like, okay, this girl's on it, like bad. She's one of those girls. And then, but for you new math guys, you'd have read that and probably wrote her a text message that's like, oh my God, hey, of course not. I hope you don't think I'm a bad guy. I just really liked you, really want to get to know you. And but instead, of my mind, I was, yes, if I just slow play this will be easy. And it was so funny. Like, once she got here, it was exactly like I thought. Like, before I texted her, I was like, I was like, no, because I had her on the point system. So I was like, no way, you're at -4. I was like, you don't deserve any, like, what she say? She's like, no funny business. I was like, you don't deserve any funny business. She's like, oh, whatever. I'm just saying, like, you hope you don't expect anything. I have no expectations. I have no expectations. I won't even kiss you unless you kiss me. I was like, you'll have to kiss me if anything even happens. Like, okay, fine. I mean, it was such bullshit though. Like, but back in the day, 18-year-old Nick could have been like logical. Going to law school, Nick would have been like, oh no, this is fucked. I'm in trouble. Oh my god. But like, what you guys need to see super logical things. The 2 + 2 = 4 is still there. It's just got a little bit of cloud over it. But if you guys will play this game enough, you'll start to see there are patterns and there are things that happen over and over and over. But it just takes time. It takes time like Thompson said, getting rejected. And the other thing is the biggest thing to have fun and for a new guy to get comfortable with this new environment and not see it as this drag you have to do is see it as you got to change the meaning of it. Like, what does this mean? Like, going to a club, does it mean like, oh man, I'm submitting myself to a lower intelligence level because I'm desperate for women, and every time I get rejected, it just makes me mad at society because I deserve better and I'm having to subject myself to this? Or is it like, man, this is cool. This is an unknown world. I've had my nose in books for years, which I'm really proud of. I wouldn't change, but there's so many different layers to life and there's so many different types of people. I'm going to go dive in this subculture for a little bit of time and get to know some of these people and learn how they play. I'm going to play, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to play by their rules when I was in this world, I'm going to play by their rules and see what happens because it's a whole new game to me. It's like, it'd be like them coming into your world and seeing everything as black and white. They'd be confused as fuck and think you're This is bullshit. I shouldn't have to be like this. But it's fun. Go over there and be like, this is a new world, and I'm going to play by the rules and see what happens. And for you guys that are even newer, that you're like, man, I just moved to a new city. I'm an engineering guy. I barely say hi to motherfuckers at the coffee, at the water cooler. Like, and you want me to go to a fucking nightclub? Fuck you. Fair enough. I get that. I don't want you to necessarily go game chicks. I think what you want to do is if that just seems like climbing Mount Everest, go to a club, go fucking sit at the bar, order a drink, and don't do shit. Just look around. Just slowly desensitize yourself to the environment. Look what could be fun. Just enjoy looking at the girls. Talk to the bartender. Order a few drinks. You don't have to fucking talk to anybody. You make like I said, make the rules easy for yourself. That's it. And the second thing I tell you is, over time, do try to find a crazy fucking friend that doesn't necessarily have good game. Don't talk to him about game. I would prefer if he didn't know about game. He's either good with girls or just a crazy motherfucker.
Hell yeah.
Everybody of mine in college was a lunatic, and I mean, he used to make me uncomfortable. I'd be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he said that," type shit. And I mean, he would go too far, but it pulled me closer to the middle from my deep inner just I was real withdrawn in myself and really paranoid about what everybody thought about me. And when I saw him, I was just like, wow, he showed me a whole new world. And it's something it's hard for me and Thompson to do over audio and be like, oh, you say this crazy shit, because it's not really that. It's just kind of their energy. They're very free. They don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about them. And they unapologetically are like, I'm going to make tonight an adventure. And I know when you're new, that sounds cool, but it's a lot harder than just to be, all right, tonight's an adventure. Let's go fuck shit up. The older you get and the more you do this, you start to see the world as you stop taking everything so goddamn serious. Like, I think that should be rule number one is stop taking anything so goddamn serious. Stop taking your business so serious. Stop taking your relationships so serious. Stop taking the bar so serious. Stop taking everything so serious.
And it's somehow, I mean, because maybe you'll be able to draw the web work better than I will, but I feel like there's this interconnectivity of these, like some of these, like you mentioned, you started out by talking about outcome dependence, and I always find that an interesting topic because I recently, Charlotte and I recently put out an ebook where one of the stories is like I'm on Saturday night at a workshop and I'm like on the edge of suicide because I'm hammered out of my mind and I've had a bad night. I've had I was just in this ugly place and then this girl comes out of the club that I talked to earlier and she was like super into me and I ended up banging her that night and that's what the story's about is like it was a story about outcome dependence because I was so outcome dependent and I was so sad because I felt like a joke. It was my first time in Asia. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, look, it's, pussy's dropping in my lap. Great.
Yeah.
But that's not, so anyway, so that's one sort of thread that I'm trying to get at. But then there's this idea that you mentioned the whole new world thing. And I don't know, like I feel like game actually helped me with this, but it's helped me in all these other areas. So I feel like if you've got these other areas, maybe this will help you. I don't know how anybody else learned, but I was always I had and probably have a lot of my identity shaped by the idea that I am smart. And so I always understood things pretty damn well really fast. So when I would encounter something that I didn't understand right away, I would usually turn away from it because there were all these other things I was good at and I got so much more pleasure from that because people would then tell me I was really smart. And it really hurt me. It really, really hurt me because I wasn't as good at math and science. And so I, to this day, I have a weaker foundation in math and science because I was just better at Latin. I was better at English. I was better at good actor, and I was better at humanities stuff. I could always, I was better at stuff where I could think at abstract levels. And as I've gotten older, I've acquired more hard skills. I've gotten more into graphic design, and I've gotten more. I've been teaching myself to program and learning guitar, stuff where the mistakes are more obvious, and One of the things game has taught me is this whole thing of like accepting rejection, where I'm learning a new skill and I have to just go, I made a mistake. I'm not good at this yet. I need to just keep doing ahead because that's part of the process.
Yeah,
And I think that I'm really glad that I've encountered that, because I find that I'm now getting these skills and I'm getting good at these things that were hard. They are hard. They are hard. Programming is hard for me. Guitar is hard for me, and because I'm learning these things as an adult, but they are. But I'm addressing these things with I'm hesitant to use terminology like this because it feels somewhat arrogant, but I'm much more mature about my learning process, because
sure,
I accept that
sure.
I'm hitting these walls of where I don't know something, and instead of throwing a little mental temper tantrum and going and doing something else, I'm saying I don't get it now, but I'm here to do this. I'm going to practice. I'm going to work on it. And the thing is, what's hard for guys, I think, is not approaching fun like that, not approaching going out like that. Again, one of the elements is the fun. Another element is just put it in there, and put it out, put yourself out there, approach the girl, learn from the experience, adapt, learn, move on, and keep applying it, and not, if you have something like that academically, I think that's the closest analogy I have. But it was really it's been really helpful to have that as a learning experience. So I don't know if that connects with you, Braddock, or I hope
Hell yeah,
somebody
man. Like
listening to this really resonates with that. But
I'm actually very similar. Like I was pretty bad at math and science. I don't know if I was bad at it. I just had bad fucking habits, like you said, like English and political science and stuff where I got to like think and discuss, and it was very more abstract and it wasn't like an exact answer type stuff. I like that stuff better. And part of that's genetic, I'm sure, but the other part of it was I didn't apply myself to math and science.
totally,
I did
yeah.
just enough to get by, or I wouldn't, I never went for mastery on it like I should have, um, and because of that, I had bad habits in those areas. So I know that when I switched to the business we're currently doing, which is a lot more technical in terms of, like you were saying, like learning Dreamweaver, HTML type stuff, and learning Photoshop. It's stuff to me that didn't come natural, didn't come easy, so I fucking hated it and I resented it. And every time I'd sit down to do something new on Photoshop, I'd get really agitated really quickly. Every time I couldn't do what I wanted it to do, I'd either X out of it or get really fucking mad, and whatever. It'd take me, I just sit here and go to Facebook, or not face my fear, I guess, or didn't want to get rejected, so you'd say. But the older I've gotten and the more I started learning to master and self-discipline, it said a couple things. One thing Brian Tracy says, he goes, people that are successful in any area, it's not that they it's not that they like doing the shit that sucks, it's that they do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Versus the people that aren't successful, they don't like doing the shit that sucks either, but they just don't do it. And so what I learned, and another thing is getting better at going, like you said, the process of mastery of going. My new thing is I sit down and I go, okay, Photoshop. Yeah, I don't like doing it, but I have no outcome in mind if I have to make this thing perfect. I just know that if I will show up every day and put an hour, 2 hours into Photoshop, good or bad, just do it. Sit here, and the whole time I'm doing it, no Facebook, anything else. I can put a timer on it, watch some tutorials. It may look like nothing when I get done, but if I do that every day, in a month's time, that knowledge will accrue. And I will build on this, and I will be good. And if you just keep
Soon
showing
I
up,
will be doing layer masks, and I will
yeah,
be, and I will understand blend modes.
yeah, right. But it's so true, and so I think the good lesson to take from that is, look, what do they say? The lowest standard you can set for yourself is perfection, because it's
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah,
So
it's Tony Robbins, right?
Tony Robbins, the absolute lowest standard is perfection. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, because I was trying to do that, and in the areas where I was pretty good at it, I was like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, whatever. But if the areas I was bad at, it's like Thompson said, I would lean away from it because I had a standard of perfection. And if I couldn't be perfect at Photoshop, I won't fucking do it.
And
So
here's the thing. Anybody listening, like, that's that's the real shit, man. Like, you know if you're doing that. Some of you, that this is probably hitting really, really, really close to home, because the truth is, if your attitude is like that toward women, where you're like, I'm not good at it, so I'm gonna turn away, and I'm gonna get frustrated, and I'm gonna start coming up with all these really, really good and really understandable and rational reasons that all my friends would agree with why not to do it, dude. you're doing it in other areas of your life without question. You are doing it. That is part of your strategy for handling things. And what I really like about what you just said, Braddock, that is infecting your life's success.
Yeah.
The rest of your life is being affected by this tendency. And the great thing is, with women, when you're talking about game, then that's where this gets into this weird thing where, I made that somewhat brusque comment in that documentary where, this is self-help. This is just super results-oriented self-help. This is something that affects the rest of your life, right? When I started addressing my confidence and my relationship to my fear, I started doing stand-up comedy. When I started approaching my learning from the aspect of with respect to the certainty of failure, the certainty of rejection, the certainty of falling short, then I started to apply that to other things, and I got good at things that aren't necessarily in my realm of comfort and the spheres of knowledge that I'm most adapted for, that I'm sort of that came most naturally to me. I'm sorry for misspeaking.
Right.
And so we're getting outside game, even though we're using game as the microcosm, because you need to take a hard look at yourself and figure out where you're shortchanging your own success and where you're accepting second-rate behavior from yourself. And game is just another lens, but where you're turning away, and if you have that habit in your life, that's the kind of thing where Photoshop tutorials and guitar scales. Photoshop tutorials for Braddock, guitar scales for me, learning functions for me, and learning how to stop loving gay sex so much for Braddock. These are, just the incremental lessons that we've had to learn, and maybe for you, game is one of those steps. But they're all interconnected. And the cool part about game, and this is why I say we're the most results-oriented type of self-help ever. Love is awesome, man. I'm gonna start that off because that's sort of this end goal. But you know what? Casual sex can be awesome. Orgasms are the only thing every human can agree is pretty great.